Sophia Chen's hands trembled as she approached table 12, her heart pounding with the weight of what she'd just overheard. The elegant family dining at the corner table of Romano's fine Italian restaurant seemed picture-perfect. A handsome man in his 30s celebrating with his parents and in-laws, his beautiful wife glowing beside him. But Sophia knew better. As a linguistics graduate working as a waitress to pay off student loans, she spoke 7 languages fluently. And what she'd just heard the in-laws whispering in Russian had chilled her to the bone. They were planning to kill their son-in-law. Tonight. The man, Alexander, she'd heard his wife call him, sat completely unaware, laughing at something his father-in-law had said, his arm lovingly around his wife's shoulders. He had no idea that the people sharing his celebration dinner were plotting his murder. Sophia approached the table with forced calm, her mind racing. How could she warn him without endangering everyone in the restaurant? How could she save a stranger's life without revealing that she understood every word of their deadly conversation? "Excuse me, sir," she said quietly, her voice barely steady. "Could I speak with you privately? It's urgent." To discover how this life-or-death situation unfolds, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from as we work toward our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Sophia Chen had been working at Romano's fine Italian restaurant for 8 months, and in that time she'd served countless wealthy families, celebrating milestones, closing business deals, and marking special occasions. But she'd never encountered a situation like the one unfolding at table 12. The evening had started normally enough. Alexander Volkov had made a reservation for 6 people to celebrate his recent promotion to CEO of Volkov Industries, a major shipping and logistics company. He'd arrived with his wife Elena, a stunning blonde woman who clearly adored her husband, his elderly parents who spoke with slight Russian accents, and Elena's parents, the Petrovs, who had flown in from Moscow for the occasion. Sophia had been assigned to their table, and from the moment they'd arrived, she'd been struck by the family dynamics. Alexander was clearly the center of attention, with everyone congratulating him on his success. Elena hung on his every word, her love for him evident in every glance. His parents seemed proud but reserved, while Elena's parents, Viktor and Natasha Petrov, were effusive in their praise. Everything seemed perfect. Too perfect, Sophia would later realize. As a linguistics graduate from Northwestern University, Sophia had always been fascinated by languages. She spoke English, Mandarin, Spanish, French, Italian, German, and Russian fluently, a skill that had proven invaluable in Chicago's diverse restaurant scene. Most customers appreciated her ability to communicate in their native languages, and it had earned her excellent tips and regular customers. But tonight, her linguistic abilities had revealed something horrifying. It started when she was refilling water glasses and heard Viktor Petrov whisper something to his wife in rapid Russian. Sophia's blood ran cold as she translated his words. The poison should take effect within an hour. Make sure Elena doesn't eat from his plate. Sophia had nearly dropped the water pitcher. She forced herself to continue serving, her hands shaking as she tried to process what she'd heard. Surely she'd misunderstood. Surely this elegant family wasn't discussing murder over ossobuco and wine, but as the evening progressed, she heard more fragments of conversation that confirmed her worst fears. "Once he's gone, Elena will inherit everything," Natasha had murmured while Alexander was in the restroom. "And we'll finally have control of the company. And the American authorities will never suspect us," Victor had replied. "It will look like a heart attack. The coroner won't think to test for the particular compound we're using." Sophia realized with growing horror that Alexander's in-laws were planning to kill him for his money and business empire. Even worse, their own daughter, Alexander's wife, was completely unaware of their deadly plot. Elena Volkov was genuinely in love with her husband. Sophia could see it in every gesture, every loving glance, every time she reached for his hand. The young woman had no idea that her parents were using her as a pawn in their murderous scheme. As Sophia watched the family interact, she noticed other disturbing details. Victor kept checking his watch, as if timing something. Natasha had insisted on ordering Alexander's meal for him, claiming she wanted to surprise him with his favorite dish. And both parents kept encouraging Alexander to eat more, to finish his plate. "You need to keep your strength up for all the challenges ahead," Victor had said, with a smile that now seemed sinister to Sophia. The worst part was watching Alexander's genuine affection for his in-laws. He treated them with respect and warmth, clearly grateful for their support of his marriage to Elena. He had no idea that the people he trusted were planning his death. Sophia found herself in an impossible situation. She was just a waitress. Who would believe her if she claimed to have overheard a murder plot? And even if someone did believe her, how could she prove it without endangering everyone in the restaurant? But she couldn't just stand by and watch an innocent man be murdered. As she served the main course, Sophia noticed Victor discreetly sprinkle something from a small vial onto Alexander's osso buco when no one was looking. Her heart stopped. The poison was already on his plate. Alexander was reaching for his fork, laughing at something Elena had said, completely unaware that his next bite might be his last. Sophia made a split-second decision that would change everything. "Excuse me, sir," she said, approaching Alexander with forced calm. "I'm so sorry to interrupt, but there's been an issue with your meal. The kitchen needs to speak with you immediately about a potential allergen contamination." Alexander looked confused. "Allergen contamination?" "Yes, sir. It's a serious health concern. Could you please come with me right away? And please don't eat anything else from your plate until we sort this out." Victor's eyes narrowed dangerously. "What kind of contamination?" he asked in accented English. Sophia's mind raced. "Shellfish, sir. There was cross-contamination in the kitchen. We need to replace the entire meal immediately." "But I don't have any allergies," Alexander said, still confused. "Sir, please," Sophia said urgently, her eyes trying to convey the seriousness of the situation without alerting the others. "This is a matter of life and death. You need to come with me now." Something in her tone must have gotten through to Alexander, because he stood up, though he still looked puzzled. "I'll be right back," he told Elena, kissing her cheek. "Just a kitchen mix-up." As Sophia led Alexander away from the table, she could feel Victor's eyes boring into her back. She'd bought them some time, but she knew the danger was far from over. "What's really going on?" Alexander asked once they were out of earshot of the table. Sophia looked around the busy restaurant, making sure no one could overhear them. "Mr. Volkov, I know this is going to sound insane, but your life is in danger." "What are you talking about?" "Your in-laws," Sophia said quietly. "They're planning to kill you. Tonight, they poisoned your food." Alexander stared at her as if she'd lost her mind. "That's impossible. Victor and Natasha love me like a son. They've been nothing but supportive." They've been speaking in Russian all evening," Sophia interrupted. "They think no one understands them. But I do. I heard them discussing the poison, the timeline, how they're going to take control of your company through Elena after you're dead." The color drained from Alexander's face. "You speak Russian?" "Doom fluently." "Mr. Volkov, they put something in your ossobuco. If you had taken even one bite." Alexander ran his hands through his dark hair, his mind clearly racing. "This can't be real. Elena would never—" "Elena doesn't know," Sophia said quickly. "She's completely innocent. They're using her, manipulating her love for you to get close enough to kill you." Alexander looked back toward the table where his family was waiting, his expression a mixture of disbelief and growing alarm. "What do I do?" he asked quietly. "We call the police," Sophia said. "But first we need to get you somewhere safe. And we need to protect Elena. If they realize their plan has failed, well, they might hurt her too." Alexander finished, his voice grim. Sophia nodded. "Mr. Volkov, I know you don't know me and you have no reason to trust me, but please, Your life depends on it. Alexander studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? First, we need to act normal, Sophia said, her mind working quickly. Or if your in-laws suspect that you know about their plan, they might panic and try something more immediate. Alexander nodded, though she could see the tension in his jaw. How do we handle this without putting Elena at risk? We're going to tell them you're feeling ill from the potential allergen exposure. Sophia explained. That will give us an excuse to leave the restaurant and call the police from somewhere safe. As they walked back toward the table, Sophia noticed Victor watching them intently. The older man's expression was carefully neutral, but she caught the calculating look in his eyes. Everything all right? Elena asked as Alexander sat down, her face full of concern. I'm feeling a bit nauseous, Alexander said, playing his part perfectly. The waitress thinks there might have been some cross-contamination with my meal. Oh no, Elena said, immediately reaching for his hand. Should we go home? Perhaps that would be best, Alexander replied. I don't want to ruin everyone's celebration. Nonsense, Victor interjected quickly. You just need some fresh air. Why don't you step outside for a moment? The feeling will pass. Sophia felt a chill run down her spine. Victor was trying to separate Alexander from the group, potentially to finish what the poison had failed to accomplish. Actually, Sophia said, stepping forward, our manager would like to comp your entire meal and arrange for a car service to take you home. It's our policy when there's been a kitchen error. That's very generous, Natasha said, but Sophia noticed the woman's eyes were cold. But surely Alexander can just step outside for some air first. Do I really think we should go? Elena said, standing up. Alex, you look pale. Alexander did look pale, but Sophia suspected it had more to do with learning about the murder plot than any fictional allergen exposure. You're right, Alexander said, standing as well. Let's head home. Victor's expression darkened slightly. Perhaps Natasha and I should come with you, to make sure you're all right. That's not necessary, Alexander said quickly. You should stay and enjoy your evening. But we insist, Victor said, his tone carrying an edge that made Sophia's blood run cold. Family takes care of family. Sophia realized they were at a critical moment. If Victor and Natasha left with Alexander and Elena, they could easily finish their plan away from the restaurant's witnesses. Actually, Sophia said, thinking quickly, our manager would like to speak with all of you about the incident, for our insurance purposes. It will just take a few minutes. It was a lie, but she needed to buy time to figure out how to safely separate Alexander from his would-be killers. Insurance purposes? Victor asked suspiciously. Yes, sir. When there's a potential health hazard, we need statements from all parties present. It's standard procedure, ducky. Alexander caught on immediately. Of course, we understand completely. And this is ridiculous, Victor said, his patience clearly wearing thin. We're not the ones who are affected. Papa, please, Elena said gently. If it helps the restaurant avoid problems, we should cooperate. Sophia could see Victor struggling to maintain his facade of concern while clearly wanting to get Alexander alone. The older man was trapped between appearing suspicious and going along with the delay. Fine, Victor said finally. But let's make this quick. Alexander needs to get home and rest. Sophia led the group toward the restaurant's private office, her mind racing. She needed to contact the police without alerting Victor and Natasha to what was happening, but she also needed to keep everyone safe until help arrived. As they walked through the restaurant, Sophia caught the eye of Marco, the head waiter, and gave him a subtle signal they'd developed for problem customers. Marco immediately understood and began moving toward the office phone. Please have a seat, Sophia said as they entered the small office. The manager will be with you shortly. Where is this manager? Victor asked impatiently. He's just finishing up with another matter, Sophia said. Can I get anyone some water while we wait? I'd like some, Elena said. Alex, are you feeling any better? A little, Alexander replied, though Sophia could see the strain in his eyes. As Sophia stepped out to get water, she quickly found Marco. "Call 911, she whispered urgently. "Tell them there's been an attempted poisoning at Romano's. The suspects are still in the building." Marco's eyes widened, but he nodded and immediately reached for the phone. When Sophia returned to the office with water, she found Victor pacing impatiently while Natasha sat rigidly in her chair. Eleanor was fussing over Alexander, clearly worried about his condition. "This is taking too long," Victor announced. "We're leaving." "I'm afraid I can't let you do that," came a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Detective Maria Santos of the Chicago Police Department standing in the entrance, her badge clearly visible. "What's the meaning of this?" Victor demanded, but Sophia noticed his hand moving toward his jacket pocket. "Sir, please keep your hands where I can see them," Detective Santos said firmly. We've received a report of attempted poisoning." Elena gasped. "Poisoning? What are you talking about?" "Ma'am, we believe someone tried to poison your husband tonight," Detective Santos explained gently. "That's absurd!" Natasha exclaimed. "Who would do such a thing?" Alexander stood up slowly, his eyes fixed on his in-laws. "Someone who wanted to take control of my company, someone who thought they could use my wife's inheritance to get what they wanted." Victor's facade finally cracked. "You have no proof of anything." Actually, we do," Detective Santos said. "We've tested the food from your table. The ossobuco contains a rare poison that's virtually undetectable unless you know what to look for." Elena looked between her parents and her husband in shock. "Mama? Papa? What is she talking about?" "It's a lie," Natasha said desperately. "We would never hurt Alexander. We love him like a son." "Then explain this," Detective Santos said, holding up a small vial. "We found this in your purse, Mrs. Petrov. It contains the same compound that was on Mr. Volkov's plate." Eleanor's face went white. No, this can't be true. They couldn't." Alexander moved to his wife's side, wrapping his arms around her as she began to shake. "Eleanor, sweetheart," he said softly, "you had nothing to do with this. You're innocent. But they're my parents," Eleanor whispered, tears streaming down her face. "How could they try to kill you?" "Because they never saw me as family," Alexander said grimly. "They saw me as an obstacle to controlling Volkov Industries." As Detective Santos placed Victor and Natasha under arrest, Sophia felt a mixture of relief and sadness. She'd saved Alexander's life, but she'd also destroyed Elena's relationship with her parents forever. "Miss Chen," Detective Santos said, turning to Sophia, "your quick thinking and language skills saved a man's life tonight. We're going to need a full statement." Sophia nodded, still processing everything that had happened. "Of course." As the police led Victor and Natasha away, Eleanor collapsed into Alexander's arms, sobbing. I'm so sorry they tried to hurt you." "This isn't your fault," Alexander said firmly. "None of this is your fault." But Sophia could see the pain in both their eyes. Even though Alexander had survived, the betrayal had wounded them both deeply. 3 days later, Sophia found herself sitting in the elegant living room of the Volkov mansion, still trying to process how dramatically her life had changed. What had started as an ordinary shift at Romano's had led to her becoming a key witness in a high-profile attempted murder case. "I can't thank you enough," Alexander said, handing her a cup of coffee. "If you hadn't overheard their conversation, if you hadn't acted so quickly." You don't need to keep thanking me," Sophia replied softly. "I just did what anyone would do." "No, Alexander said firmly. "Most people would have convinced themselves they misheard, or that it wasn't their business. You risked your own safety to save a stranger." Elena entered the room, looking fragile but determined. The past few days had been devastating for her. Learning that her parents had tried to murder her husband, that they'd been using her as a pawn in their scheme to take control of Volkov Industries. "How are you holding up?" Sophia asked gently. "I keep thinking I should have seen the signs," Elena said, settling into the chair beside Alexander. Looking back, there were so many conversations that stopped when I entered the room. So many times they asked detailed questions about Alex's business that seemed innocent. But now, they're master manipulators, Alexander said, taking his wife's hand. They spent months, maybe years, planning this. You couldn't have known. The police found evidence that they'd been researching the poison for over a year, Elena said quietly. They'd been planning to kill you since before we even got married. Sophia felt her heart break for the young woman. Shh, Elena, you can't blame yourself for their choices. You loved your husband and trusted your parents. That's not a crime. But it almost got Alex killed, Elena whispered. No, Alexander said firmly. Their greed almost got me killed. Your love, your genuine love, is what helped Sophia recognize that you were innocent in all this. Sophia nodded. When I was watching your family that night, it was obvious that you adored your husband. That's actually what made me realize how dangerous the situation was. Your parents were willing to destroy your happiness for money. Elena wiped away a tear. I don't know how to move forward from this. How do I trust my own judgment again? One day at a time, Alexander said softly, and with the help of people who genuinely care about us. He looked at Sophia meaningfully. Which brings me to something I wanted to discuss with you. What's that? Sophia asked. I'd like to offer you a job, Alexander said. Volkov Industries needs someone with your language skills and your intuitive abilities. Someone who can spot danger, who can read people and situations. Sophia blinked in surprise. What kind of job? The Director of International Relations, Alexander explained. You'd be working directly with our overseas partners, using your linguistic abilities to facilitate communications and negotiations. But more than that, you'd be helping to ensure the security of our operations. I don't have any business experience, Sophia protested. You have something more valuable than experience, Elena said. You have integrity. You have the courage to do what's right even when it's difficult. The salary would be significantly more than what you're making at the restaurant, Alexander added. And it would come with full benefits, including tuition assistance if you want to pursue additional education. Sophia felt overwhelmed. This is incredibly generous, but I can't accept charity. It's not charity, Alexander interrupted. It's recognition of your value. Sophia, you saved my life. But more than that, you showed me the kind of person I want working for my company. Someone who sees beyond surface appearances, someone who acts on principle rather than self-interest. Think about it, Elena urged. You could use your talents to help people, to build bridges between cultures, to make a real difference. Sophia looked between them, seeing the genuine hope in their eyes. Can I ask you something? Of course, Alexander said. Why are you really doing this? I mean, beyond gratitude, you could hire any number of qualified people for this position. Alexander was quiet for a moment, then spoke thoughtfully. Because the past few days have shown me how important it is to surround yourself with people you can trust completely. People who will tell you the truth, even when it's difficult to hear. People who will protect you not because they have to, but because they choose to. And because, Elena added softly, we'd like to consider you family, real family, the kind that protects each other. Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. Growing up as an only child of immigrant parents who had worked multiple jobs to support her education, she'd often felt isolated, caught between cultures, and never quite fitting in anywhere. I need some time to think about it, Sophia said finally. Of course, Alexander said. Take all the time you need. As Sophia prepared to leave, Elena walked her to the door. Sophia, Elena said quietly, can I tell you something? Of course. When I was growing up, my parents always told me that family was everything, that blood was thicker than water, that you could only truly trust your relatives. Elena's voice was bitter. It turns out they were wrong about everything. Not everything, Sophia said gently. They were right that family is important. They just had the wrong definition of family. What do you mean? Real family isn't about blood, Sophia explained. It's about choice. It's about the people who stand by you, who protect you, who love you for who you are rather than what you can give them. You and Alexander, you chose each other. That makes you more family than DNA ever could. Eleanor smiled through her tears. Is that why you're hesitating about the job? Because you're afraid of getting too close? Sophia considered the question. Maybe. I've spent most of my life being independent, not relying on anyone else. The idea of being part of something bigger, of having people depend on me and me depending on them, it's scary, but it's also beautiful, Eleanor said softly. Sophia, you've already proven that you're the kind of person who protects the people you care about. Maybe it's time to let people protect you too. As Sophia drove home that evening, Elena's words echoed in her mind. She thought about her small apartment, her student loans, her solitary life focused entirely on survival and achievement. Then she thought about the warmth in the Volkov home, the genuine affection between Alexander and Elena, despite everything they'd been through, the way they'd both looked at her as if she already belonged. For the first time in years, Sophia allowed herself to imagine what it might be like to have a real family. People who would celebrate her successes, support her through failures, and stand by her no matter what. By the time she reached her apartment, she'd made her decision. 6 months later, Sophia stood in the conference room of Volkov Industries, addressing a group of international partners in flawless Mandarin. The negotiation had been tense, with cultural misunderstandings threatening to derail a crucial shipping contract. But Sophia's ability to navigate both the language and cultural nuances had saved the deal. Excellent work, Alexander said, as the Chinese delegation left the building. That contract represents millions in revenue. More importantly, Sophia replied, it represents a long-term partnership built on mutual respect and understanding. Alexander smiled. You've exceeded every expectation I had when I offered you this position. It was true. In 6 months, Sophia had transformed Volkov Industries' International Relations Department. Her linguistic abilities had opened doors to new markets, but it was her intuitive understanding of people and cultures that had made her invaluable. There's something else I wanted to discuss with you, Alexander said as they walked toward his office. Elena and I have been talking, and we'd like to make you a partner in the company. Sophia stopped walking. What? A full partner? Alexander continued. With equity, voting rights, and a seat on the board of directors. Alexander, I can't accept that. It's too much. It's exactly what you deserve, Alexander interrupted. Sophia, you've not only helped grow this company, you've helped us rebuild trust in our operations. After what happened with the Petrovs, we needed to show our partners and employees that Volkov Industries was built on integrity. You've been the face of that integrity. They entered Alexander's office, where Elena was waiting with a bottle of champagne and legal documents spread across the desk. Please tell me you're going to say yes, Elena said, her face bright with excitement. I've been planning this celebration for weeks. Sophia looked at the documents, seeing her name listed as Shri Sophia Chen-Volkov, partner and director of international relations. Chen-Volkov? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. We'd like you to officially join our family, Elena explained. Not just as a business partner, but as our sister, if you'll have us. Sophia felt tears streaming down her face. You want to adopt me? We want to make official what's already true in our hearts, Alexander said softly. Your family, Sophia. You've been family since the night you saved my life. But I'm 28 years old. Adults don't get adopted. Adults choose their families, Elena said, echoing the conversation they'd had months earlier. And we choose you. Sophia sank into a chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they were offering. I don't know what to say. Say yes, came a voice from the doorway. They all turned to see Detective Maria Santos entering the office, a warm smile on her face. "Detective Santos," Alexander said, standing. "What brings you here?" "I wanted to give you an update on the Petrov case," she replied, "and to congratulate Miss Chen on her new partnership." "How did you know about that?" Sophia asked. "Alexander called me yesterday," Detective Santos explained. "He wanted to make sure there were no legal complications with the adoption proceedings, given your role as a witness in the case." "And?" Elena asked anxiously. "Everything is clear," Detective Santos said. "In fact, the Petrovs' conviction was largely due to Sophia's testimony. They've been sentenced to 25 years each for attempted murder and conspiracy." Sophia felt a mixture of relief and sadness. "How is Elena handling the news?" "Better than expected," Elena answered for herself. "It's been difficult, but I've realized that grieving for the parents I thought I had is different from grieving for the people they actually were." "Therapy has helped," Alexander added, his arm around his wife's shoulders. "We've both been working through the trust issues and trauma. Which brings me to another reason for my visit," Detective Santos said. "The Chicago Police Department would like to offer you a consulting position, Miss Chen." "What kind of consulting?" Sophia asked. "Your language skills and ability to read people have proven invaluable. We'd like you to work with us on cases involving international suspects or victims. Part-time, of course, so it wouldn't interfere with your work here." Sophia looked around the room at these people who had become her family, who believed in her abilities and wanted to help her make a difference in the world. "I have a condition," she said finally. "What's that?" Alexander asked. "And if I'm going to be a Volkov, if I'm going to be part of this family, then we do things together. The consulting work, the business decisions, the challenges, we face them as a team." "And always," Elena said immediately. "Absolutely," Alexander agreed. Detective Santos smiled. "I think that can be arranged. In fact, having a team approach might be even more effective." As Detective Santos left and Elena popped the champagne, Sophia reflected on how dramatically her life had changed. A year ago, she'd been a struggling graduate student working multiple jobs just to survive. Now she was about to become a partner in a multi-million-dollar company and an official member of a family that loved her unconditionally. "Are you happy?" Elena asked, handing her a glass of champagne. "Terrified," Sophia admitted. "But yes, incredibly happy." "Shu good," Alexander said, raising his glass. "Shu to family, to trust, and to the woman who saved us all." "To Sophia Chen Volkov," Elena added. "Our sister, our partner, and our hero." As they toasted, Sophia felt a warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with the champagne. For the first time in her life, she truly belonged somewhere. She had people who would protect her, support her, and love her, no matter what challenges lay ahead. "There's one more thing," Alexander said, setting down his glass. "We've established a foundation in your honor, the Chen Volkov Foundation for Linguistic and Cultural Understanding. It will provide scholarships for students studying languages and international relations." Sophia stared at him in shock. "You did what?" "We want to help other people develop the skills that saved my life," Elena explained. "We want to promote understanding between cultures to help prevent the kind of manipulation and betrayal that almost destroyed our family. And we want to do it in your name," Alexander added, "because you represent everything the Foundation stands for: courage, integrity, and the power of understanding." Sophia felt overwhelmed by their generosity, their faith in her, their determination to turn a traumatic experience into something positive. "I love you both," she said simply. "We love you too," Eleanor replied, pulling her into a hug. "Welcome to the family, sister." As they embraced, Sophia realized that sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones you choose, and sometimes the most powerful protection comes not from blood, but from love. 1 year later, Sophia stood at the altar of St. Michael's Cathedral, not as a bride, but as the maid of honor for her best friend and sister, Elena. The church was filled with flowers, soft music, and the warm glow of hundreds of candles. But what made the scene truly beautiful was the love radiating from everyone present. Alexander and Elena had decided to renew their vows on their second wedding anniversary, wanting to celebrate their love with the family they'd chosen rather than the one that had betrayed them. It was a symbolic fresh start, a declaration that their marriage was built on trust, honesty, and genuine affection. "You look beautiful," Sophia whispered to Elena as they prepared to walk down the aisle. "I feel beautiful," Elena replied, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "For the first time in my life, I'm surrounded by people who love me for who I am, not what I can give them." Sophia adjusted Elena's veil, thinking about how much they'd all grown over the past year. The Chen Volkov Foundation had already awarded 50 scholarships to students studying international relations and linguistics. Volkov Industries had expanded into new markets, with Sophia's cultural expertise opening doors that had been closed for years. And their consulting work with the Chicago Police Department had helped solve 12 cases involving international suspects. But more than their professional successes, they'd built something precious together, a real family based on choice, love, and mutual protection. "Are you ready?" Sophia asked. More than ready."